Hello, everyone who's joining. We're so happy to have you here with us today. We're going to get started in just another minute or two for this fantastic session on our Student Perspective series, which is really a wonderful opportunity for those of us who are instructors, who are faculty, to get to hear directly from our students, particularly on this topic, which is caring for first-year students. So we're really thrilled to have all of you with us today. And again, we want to give everyone just a few minutes. Some people are transitioning from classes or making their way between meetings. So we're going to give everyone just a minute or two before we really kick off the panel. But during that time frame, would love it if our panelists and our wonderful facilitator would like to introduce themselves, and then we can kick things off. So again, for those who are entering, welcome. This is FCI's Student Perspective Panel Series. We're thrilled today to talk about caring for first-year students in particular, and we're going to hear directly from students today, as well as facilitator Camille Cook. So why don't I kick it over to you, Camille, and then you can handle introduction with our wonderful student panelists as well.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. I am so thrilled to share with you 4 of our amazing pals, the peer academic leaders that really did amazing work this past this past semester with our first year students. This is a newly revamped program that we are debuting this year, the Peer Academic Leader Program, where these students have spent an entire semester working with a cohort of first-year students, mentoring them, supporting them academically, and being someone that they can turn to when they need support. So I would love to introduce the rest of our panelists. Maybe we can start with Ashlee, if you want to say your name, where you're at in school, maybe your major, and then we'll go from there.
So, hello. As Camille said, my name is Ashlee. I am technically a senior. I came in with a bunch of credits when I came to Park. My major is accounting with minors in digital marketing and philosophy.
And Mallory?
Hi, my name is Mallory. Excuse me. I am a junior and I'm majoring in psychology and minoring in sociology and fine art.
Waylon?
Hello, everyone. My name is Waylon Wright. I am currently a sophomore. I'm also a nursing major. Yeah, that's about all.
And Raeven.
Yeah, my name's Raeven. I am a senior. I'll be graduating this May, and I'm a double major in biology and psychology with minors in chemistry and philosophy.
Wonderful. Well, I think we'll go ahead and jump into our questions. I have prepared some questions for our wonderful panelists today, and they'll kind of round robin and see what we want to discuss today. So, our first one is: can you share a moment when you felt like you made a real difference in a first-year student's experience? What did you do, and how did it affect them? Maybe Ashlee, do you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, I can start. So when Camille sent me this question, the first thing that came to mind was there was a student that was struggling with a class that we were both in, and we recently added Dan to our team to help with student retention, I believe, yeah, and to help students just with tutoring and getting through a course. And so I recommended the student go talk to Dan, and they were able to successfully get through the course and pass.
Great, thank you so much. Waylon, do you have anything to say on that?
Sure. Yeah, I can add a little something. There was obviously a lot of moments, but I think the biggest one for me was just getting involved with the freshmen in my class was good. The faculty member for the class I was in did a really good job of ensuring that as the goal of the program is to not feel like we're above them, we're a peer. And I think that was very helpful for kind of, one, getting to know them, making them feel more comfortable at Park. And also, a lot of them were coming to me for questions outside of class when they saw me, or just random stuff, or just saying hi. And so I guess just kind of connecting with them made it a lot easier. And I think it helped help them feel at home at Park. So.
Raeven, what about you?
Yeah, the incident that immediately came to mind when I read this question was actually a couple years ago, my first year as a PAL. I had a student who was like, I don't feel like I belong here. This was, I think, back when the classes were 16 weeks, so we were like 8 weeks into the class already, just really trying to get started. And they were like, I just don't think I found my spot. They weren't an athlete, they weren't involved in anything. And so I found that it was really easy just to be really honest with my story and be like, yeah, like we've all been here. I think they felt like they were the only ones struggling. And so being honest about like, we all like have a hard time transitioning, especially that transition from high school into college. And so I told them my story and we really connected and we found them groups to be a part of. And so I still see that student around on campus. And so it's really exciting to know that they're still here because we were able to connect and they felt more comfortable.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, we'll move on to our next question here. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced when mentoring first-year students, and how did you overcome them? How do you handle situations where students seem hesitant to seek help? Maybe we can start with you, Mallory.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues was that they didn't always feel like they could reach out, or they felt like they had a problem, but they didn't know how to express that to me. And so I think one of the biggest things I did was just repeatedly like checking in on them, like, hey, how's it going? Or like we talked about a lot of different things in the program that I thought they could relate to. So I was like, if you guys need anything, here are like the links, or here are the sources that you might need. And just wanted to make them feel that they're not alone. So you just have to keep reaching out because they might not always do that kind of thing.
Yeah. What about you, Raeven?
It's definitely different for every class and even every student is very individual. One of the things that I've found and I've definitely grown in as a peer myself is just being, like I said, open and honest about like where I came from, where I was at Park. And that makes them feel like they can be more open and honest. I definitely second Mallory's just checking in with them. And so sometimes I'll start with being like, I'm just gonna introduce myself and let you get comfortable with the idea that like I'm here to help you, and then letting them reach out, but also being like, hey, I see like maybe you're struggling with this, or somebody else mentioned that you might need help with this.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Waylon.
Oh, I guess I think this goes in general for all students. Is sometimes students, like we've been saying, don't want to reach out for help, or they just, won't tell anyone that they're struggling with something, or they might find someone they are comfortable talking with. Um, so yeah, I'd say that was my main thing that I ran into as a struggle. But one thing I did, and that my mentor or faculty person for the class, Dr. Sylvia's kind of wanted me to do, was meet with all the students, which was something that Raeven actually did for me when I was her freshman in this kind of thing in the early stages of it, was meeting with all of the students and kind of checking in with them on a one-on-one basis. And obviously it was still difficult to actually get students to sign up, even though I had times every day of the week, like from 8 a.m. to like 6 p.m. And I was like, we will make time. But once we said it was some extra credit points, then I was able to get everybody to come in and do it. So that was kind of one situation we overcame there. And yeah, students sometimes they're hesitant, but I think that having a good relationship with them and also having a good relationship with your faculty and being able to communicate well is an important thing, because sometimes they don't want to talk to the faculty member, but they'll talk to you since you're kind of at their same level up here.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Waylon. I think all faculty can relate to the struggle of not being able to reach students, or they don't respond, or they are hesitant. And so I think that's the real power of the PAL role, is having that peer-to-peer interaction. Great. Ashlee, anything to add?
I feel like that everyone kind of hit the nail on the head. I think the biggest point is to just listen and be available for students. If someone doesn't want help, then you can't force them. The most that you can do is just be there and be like, I'm open. This is my story. Help me help you.
Yeah, And I do want to actually spotlight Ashlee in that she was the PAL, or the peer academic leader, for our first generation cohort of students. So that's something new that we tried this year. And maybe you can talk about it more in the next few answers here, Ashlee. But we, registered all of our first generation identifying students into one cohort. It was led by Dr. Olivia Zubrod, and Ashlee was the PAL for that. So that was a really exciting opportunity for us. Okay, so our next question is this. Developing a trusting relationship is so crucial to being a PAL or being in that first year experience program. What strategies have you found most effective in building trust with first year students, especially when they're nervous or unsure about reaching out? Maybe we can start with you, Ashlee.
Yeah, so developing trusting relationships is crucial. I would agree with that statement, and I think that the biggest thing that I did was I can be very cheeky, and so just being cheeky with the students that can handle it, and just playfully teasing them and kind of building that rapport there, so that it sets the stage and the ease to have tougher conversations about like how you're doing. Are you able to get your books? Or some resources that you can go to. Who can, as a first generation student, it can be hard to know who to reach out to, and like, should I blow up their email like 5 times? Uh, and just being open to answer all of those questions.
Thank you. Mallory.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the biggest things is like following through with what you say. Like if you're saying, I'm gonna check on you at this time, or like you talk to a student and help them with some issue that they're facing, like textbooks, or they're having trouble with their classes, and you have to check in on them a week later. And you're just honest and real with them. I think that would help with the whole trust thing. And I like Waylon said earlier, like not being better than them. Like you have to be on their level and prove that you're there to help them in any way that's possible, and just keep like being that person for them. I think is a great way to build trust.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, especially about following through with what you say you're going to do. It can totally escape. I'm sure a lot of us relate to this. It can totally escape me. Oh, I'm gonna send you that resource, and I'll get back to you after class, and then I totally forget. But being consistent and following up when you say you're going to is a great way to build trust. Great, Mallory. And Waylon.
Yeah, kind of to jump on it, I would say obviously the most important thing with building relationships is communicating and knowing people. A lot of the activities we would do in class, were either group activities or small group activities. And one thing I started to do, but it was later in the 8 weeks, is I kind of sat in the front, and I stayed within like the front tables. But I think and I started the last couple of classes to move around more and go interact with more of the group little projects to kind of get a connection with how they work and give them, tips if there's on certain assignments or things where there might be confusion, and kind of taking a greater role and jumping in with everyone. And I think that's kind of the one strategy I used. And also, as I've said before, is I did think that having the meetings with the students one-on-one was helpful. Some students liked it, some students didn't. Some students naturally don't want to come out of their shell, don't feel as comfortable talking, and that's okay. And our goal, I feel like, is just kind of to help them, push them along a little into the college way, and try to get them out of their shell. But yeah, I would say just truthfully taking time to know them as a person, know their name, know their story. Don't just listen to in one ear out the other, and just, have a true caring vibe. So.
Yeah, that's great. One thing that our audience might not know is that our pals were actually in the classroom during one of the class sessions during the week. So if it was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, Malin might come every Wednesday. And so the students could really count on their pal being there in the classroom, doing the activities, leading activities, and doing those sorts of things, which is a really great feature, I think, of the program. So our next question is this. Every first year student is really unique, right? We have all kinds of different students that come to attend classes here at Park. How have you adjusted your approach to mentoring based on the individual needs or personalities of the students you've worked with? We can start with you, Waylon.
Yeah, like I'm gonna regurgitate a little of the same information. As you know, we have a lot of international students, and sometimes, it can be harder to really connect with those students because either they don't feel as comfortable talking or they're unsure of how to communicate well, and just they might feel kind of alienated or alone because they don't have a strong friend group yet, being it's one of their first beginner level classes. I've adjusted my approach, I would say, by ensuring that I am open to talking to everyone because sometimes when I'm tired, I'll just, as some people do, it takes a while to wake up. So a little bit of coffee helped with that. And so I would say just ensuring that you have a welcoming personality to everyone all the time. In the class, outside of the class, you got to remember that this is a leadership position, not just in the classroom, but outside the classroom. Students will see you when you're walking around campus, you're walking to your vehicle, you're going to get lunch, and not just, eyes forward, not trying to look at anyone, being a welcoming face even after the class, and just kind of being there is someone they remember. It's like, oh, if I have a question, I can go see him or her and kind of get an answer. So.
That's a really excellent point, Waylon. The fact that you all are peers and that you're on campus and you're getting lunch in the caf and you're, living in residential life or whatever, is a great asset of this program and how you can continue that mentorship outside the four walls of the classroom in a way that our faculty honestly don't get the opportunity to in the same way. Thank you. Raeven, what about you?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to work with two very distinct groups. I've done both the honors section, but also just the normal section of FYE, and a lot of it is just recognizing where your students are. Again, like I said earlier, like every student is unique, but obviously like they each have their own challenges. The honor section came with its own unique set of challenges where they maybe felt more ready for college, but socially that transition was really difficult because they're used to having like the same people in all their AP classes versus when I did the normal section, those students were a lot more like academically, I'm not sure if I'm ready to be here. And so it was about recognizing those challenges and waiting for them to recognize that in themselves. Sometimes these freshmen are like going through a lot with this transition. And so it was just being there as they moved forward and they recognized these different types of challenges in themselves. And then just, again, meeting them where they are. Some students were like very ready to talk about it and to hear somebody else have the same experiences, whereas other students were just like, no, I just kind of want to hang out and get through this. Or some other students I've connected with faculty members and they've really like hit it off and like grown as connected. So it was just figuring out what each individual student needs and recognizing that they're all coming from very different places.
Thank you. Mallory.
I feel like my answer would be pretty similar to both Waylon's and Raeven's. It's a lot of you have to recognize what each person needs, and that comes with that connection and like talking to them. Like in my class, I know some people needed help more often or were less confident in their college journey than others. So I know how to give them a little more attention. But I was still that peer and that person, kind of like a confidant for all of them if need be. And again, I was always like reaching out, like, hey, just making sure you guys don't need anything. And like, I think it's just you have to recognize what some people need and what others need. Like it's all different for everybody.
Mm-hmm. I have this vivid memory of Mallory. She was actually the pal in my section of FYE. I have this vivid memory of I was in the cafeteria and one of our students came up and was like, I love Mallory. She's amazing. I've connected with her so much. She invited me to go get coffee off campus. Like it was such a cool moment of Mallory knew exactly what that student needed. And in that moment, it was a friend group or it was someone to hang out with that night or to study with. And I think that's really powerful. All right, Ashlee.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest ways that we can account for each student's uniqueness is to actually actively listen to them and not to listen to just say something to them or to fix their problems and tie with a neat little bow and then like move on to the next student. And with actively listening comes emotional intelligence. So learning how to read people in situations like Mallory did and assessing what are the next best steps for the student. You can't really make a detailed plan for like, here's what I'm going to do if this type of student comes to me. And so the best you can do is just being willing to listen to them and like truly take the time to understand them and their perspective and where they're coming from.
Well, yeah, really great point, Ashlee. All right, our last question is this. First year students often go through periods of stress, homesickness, and academic pressure that they often haven't experienced prior to starting here at Park. How have you supported students through these really difficult times? And what advice would you give them to be resilient? Maybe we can start with Raeven.
Yeah, I love this question because, again, like I said, every student is very unique. But one thing that I found almost all the students go through is they all get homesick at some point. For my honor students, it's a little funny. Most of the time, they're actually missing their high school. They're like, I want to go back to my high school classes. I want my high school teachers back. I want my friend groups. And so a lot of, for me, working with those students was finding things that help mimic. So being very familiar with campus myself and being able to recommend things to them that'll help them bridge that gap a little better. I've actually had 3 or 4 students now join the local community choir with me. And so that was one of those things, is making those personal invites like Mallory did, to be like, hey, like I'm doing this. I'd love for you to come hang out with me. I've also like invited students to come to events and activities, specifically like listening to their concerns and being like, oh, I missed this. So like, okay, well, let's go to this event that's going to give you some of that you're missing, but also to make good memories in their first couple of weeks here. I always think like the first initial connection you have with them is going to really set the tone for the rest of that. And so finding something that like they say and really running with that, and then as you go, like they'll feel comfortable with you to continue voicing those concerns.
Great. Thank you. Waylon.
Yeah, I also agree. This is a good question because I think it's one that we're able to connect with the most on a personal level. I think, as I've said a lot throughout this, and most of us have said, it's important to connect with students on a personal level and make a genuine connection, actively listening, seeing what's best for them in the moment, those type of things. I'll make 2 main points on this one. As faculty knows, I guarantee all of you encourage your students to come to your office hours, but in the first couple of weeks of class, I'm trying to constantly badger it into the students' heads, because I know me personally, when I was struggling, having a teacher that I felt like, I had a good relationship and I could go to them and talk to them about, hey, I'm really struggling with this. I'm struggling with stress overall. And having a faculty that kind of knows how this goes and is able to kind of just give me a little bit of support and make me feel like I have the shell of support that I need at Park, because often early on we don't have that yet. I'll also shout out Dr. Silvius again. He made a lot of good examples in there of, hey, I've changed my mind on what I want to do a lot. I have gone through periods of stress, and I think it's kind of that connection of showing that even as faculty, sure, we're a little above you, but we understand what's going on, and having the emotional connection sure might be different. But secondly, just to make it quick, one thing that, especially with stress, because I feel like everybody gets stressful during a lot of this, I encourage students to say no to things. And that can be really hard. It's still hard for me sometimes when I'm overwhelmed, but I'm getting better at it. Is you got to learn, hey, do you want to go to this event? No, I can't. I need to do this. A friend group wants to hang out. Do you want to go to the cafe and get food? No, I can't right now. I need to, need time for myself, or I need to. So I'd say that's my biggest piece of advice there is learn to say no and plan your time around that, and ensure that you're doing what's best for yourself and not best for others all the time.
That's really excellent advice. From my observations, teaching first year students for quite some time now, they really struggle with that no piece, with the boundaries, with understanding how all of their desires can fit or don't fit into their schedule, and how to prioritize. So it's really excellent that they have a mentor who can also encourage and help them grow in that. All right, Mallory.
Well, I remember when I was a freshman, I was definitely homesick the first couple of weeks, because that was like the first time I'd ever really been away from home. And I started to get stressed, halfway through the semester with midterms and everything. So I really could relate to a lot of what these freshmen were going through. And I think the thing that helped me the most was making those connections and friendships and relationships early on. So I did the first couple of weeks of school promote a lot of going to events. Like you don't have a lot of assignments right now. It's good to get out there, spread your wings while you can. And like like Waylon said, I promoted a lot of time management skills. Like you have time in your schedule to do homework some days, but you also have time to go. Like you don't need to be doing homework 24/7. You don't need to be going out with your friends 24/7. Just like trying to find that balance to help reduce the stress. And then you have that sort of connection that helped me with homesickness. So
Thank you. Mallory is very good at attending campus events. I'm sure you've all seen her at all the campus events that happen here on our campus, and really good at encouraging students to also follow suit in that. All right, Ashlee?
Yeah, so something that I would like to point out is that a lot of, I mean, life never stops happening, but it seems like really big things, big life moments happen in college. And I've just seen that in my personal experience, a lot of heavy things happening. And then also in a lot of my students' lives too, with jobs and families, and especially with being a first generation student, it kind of feels like everything is fighting against you because you've got assignments to deal with, you've got friend groups I have to figure out now, I have to figure out how to email this teacher, how do I get this assignment done, I've got this family thing going on, and it can be a lot, and it can be easier to feel like, it can be easy to feel like that it would be easier to just cave as opposed to reaching out and seeking support. And so when students have confided in me kind of the struggles that they're going through or expectations that families have for them that they like that's not the expectation they have for themselves. The biggest thing that I have done is reaching back out. So not just leaving the conversation there, but continuously making sure that I'm checking in on the student and being like, how is this going? How can I help you? How are you feeling about this? Is there any way that I can support you through this? Or even just a simple like, man, I'm really sorry that you're going through that. That sucks a lot. Um, I think it's important to reach back out to students when they've confided in you because it can be hard once you've shared with someone something to like reach back out to them. It's kind of like you want them to reach out to you. You don't want to be overbearing. And so that's why I think it's really important for PALs and FYE mentors to make a point to connect with students. And I think that we've kind of all hit on that this lunch and learn session.
Thank you, Ashlee. Yeah, I think everything that you all have said has been so poignant. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and honest about your experiences mentoring and caring for first year students. The PAL program is has extremely great students. These are the top tier students that we can find because we want to find mentors who are committed to our students and committed to Park. So thank you all for joining us. I'm going to hand it back over to FCI to finish up.
All right, fantastic. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate the work that you do, the support that you give to all of the Park students that you work with, and also just sharing your learning experiences with us so that we can learn from you. We have just a few minutes. We wanted to open it up for Q&A from the audience. So if anybody would like to pose a question in the chat, feel free to do so at this time.
I have a question
Yes, please go ahead, or feel free to unmute your line. Go ahead.
I have a question. Do you think that as the teachers and so forth that we can actually bug people about, are you sure you're okay? Is there something I can do to help? Can we overdo that? I mean, I know it can if you're seeming phony, but I come across sometimes as a little bit motherly, and I'm trying to avoid that.
I mean, I'll tackle that one, Ro. Ashlee,
Go
if you want
ahead.
to go first, you can.
No, you go first, Waylon.
Okay,
I'll go
all
after
right.
you.
Okay. I would just say at least in my personal experience, I think it's important to kind of have that connection because I have had that with one professor who seemed they genuinely cared and were checking in on me, once every week, once every 2 weeks. Hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Are you feeling stressed? What can I do for you? And just kind of that, like I was saying earlier, that genuine connection of showing like, hey, I know I've been through what you've been through, with the stress of trying to get through college and homesickness or whatever it may be, even if you don't know exactly. I think it's important. And sometimes it could be too much, but most time I think it's important. So.
Well, and I think we've got some great questions in the chat. Monica Brannon asked, what is something that your students needed that Park doesn't offer?
You stumped them, Monica.
I guess we offer it all, right?
More
That's
scholarships.
a great thing. That's a great response, is silence. That means we're offering good things.
More
I was just
scholarships.
gonna say, there's
More
definitely
scholarships?
really
Sorry.
sorry. I was just gonna say there's definitely been some like moments for me where I was like, the students come to me and ask for a resource, and I've been like, oh, I don't know if that exists. And so just learning about all these resources that we have, and they've definitely grown in my time here. And so I can definitely see like how maybe these like students who have been here a little less time than me are like, oh, we have like all the resources we need. And I expect them to continue growing in all of these resources. One of the biggest things when connecting with first year resources is they know nothing, or first year students, excuse me, is that they know nothing about Park. Like they don't know any of these resources. And so it's like our job to make sure that they have those connections. And so like we're kind of just like step one of being like, I think I need this. I don't think it exists. And being like, oh, actually here it is. Or if it doesn't exist, being like, I know somebody who will help you. Camille's been a really great resource for that. All of the professors I've worked with have been a really great resource for like, oh, this doesn't exist, but this unique student has a unique problem. Let's figure it out.
Thank you.
Love that. And Stacy also had a great question. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Do you feel this experience could be done in an online modality? Or if the students are FYE 100 online, do you think there would be value in connecting with them as a PAL?
I can kind of tackle this question. I don't know that I'm going to give you the answer that you want. I think that the biggest theme that I see in all of our responses is that interpersonal relationship and that in-person connection, and that I think can be really hard to achieve online. And in my online classes that I've taken, teachers have tried to like build connection into the course, but it doesn't work the same because most people are just trying to keep their head above water when they're going through an online class. They're not there to usually like gain some deep insights about themselves. So that's just my take. I think the FYE 100 could be online, but I don't think that you would get the benefit of having a PAL and having someone to connect with.
I was just going to elaborate on that as a student who was during COVID, had some online classes that shouldn't have been. And I think it's one of those things that it will take unique integration into the course, but it's probably something we really should offer because I've taken lots of courses with online students who feel like they don't have the resources that these in-person students have, that feel like they're isolated from campus. And so even though it would be difficult, I don't think it's something we should stray away from just because it's going to be difficult or because it's going to have unique challenges. I do think there's a lot of online students who would really benefit from having a mentor like this.
Yeah, just to real quick jump on top of that, I would say the most important thing, I've been very vocal about things like online classes at Park, especially in regards to discussion boards, which are usually common. I'd say the most important thing is if you're gunning for success in any virtual course, and especially in an FYE class, the most important thing is a lot of students hate Zooms, but the thing is it's going to have to be a requirement. Cameras on, conversation, facial expressions. That's really the only way that I feel like without that, having a PAL in the FYE class is pointless. That's just my opinion, because I know if I was a student in there, I would think it's a joke. And, I'm very blunt about these things because I got a lot to say about discussion boards. So that's all I got.
Another question is, do you see specific common struggles in first year students?
I mean, I think a common thing is just like Raven said, they come in knowing nothing. So it's you have to teach them all that they can do and like all that they're capable of and all of the resources that they have at their disposal. And they don't know that yet. So they don't know that, oh, I'm struggling with this. There's something that can help me with that. Like it's not as big of a deal as they think it is kind of thing. So again, I think it's just they don't know anything. And that's the whole point of this class, which I think is why it's a great resource to have.
Mallory, I love that you've said that it's not as big of a deal as you think it is, because I think that's often what I deal with first year students, is them thinking that like their problem is huge and that like there's no one to help me and that I don't know what to do. Like I have literally sat next to students and helped them write emails because they weren't prepared for that coming in. And it's not something I would have ever thought I was be doing as a pal or as a first year mentor, but like just knowing that like it's okay, we're gonna break this down step by step and walk them through these things of like there definitely are some common things, but like, again, you get random things like, I don't know how to write an email. Can you please help me figure out how to write this so that I don't sound stupid when I email my professor? Or another thing I get is like, how do I connect with my professors? Like, there's so many different ways to do it. I see that one over and over again. And so just walking them through some of these things.
Well, and I think you bring up such a great point. It's not just new students who aren't aware of what's available. It's a lot of those of us even on this call. So instructors and students alike may not know of all the wealth of resources that do exist. So I want to put a link in here for everyone on the chat. That is on our innovatepark.org website, and it shows all of the support that is available for student success. So whether you're a student or a faculty member and aren't sure where to direct your students to or which resources exist for them, this is a really great website that you can use with direct links and contacts to access that. So I just wanted to throw that in the chat for those of you who are interested. And I know we have a little bit more time. There's a few other questions. Richard asked, what has the dialogue been like around AI usage for these students that you're working with? Great question.
I guess I can give it a quick tackle. Really, there wasn't much conversation about AI usage. I think it's become more prevalent about talking about it within the last 8-10 months. I think the simple fact is, especially students, and I think everyone in general, they want to do their work as easy as possible, as quick as possible. And sometimes AI can help with that. I would say, instead of encouraging, I've had some professors who say like, don't even use Grammarly, because when I put your work through a AI, detector machine, it's going to flag it. And my response is, well, I'm bad at English. Sorry. But back to the point. I would say encouraging students around AI usage these are the good uses of AI. Here is how you can properly use it. Don't just say, generate this topic and copy this in. Say, I need ideas or topics around this, and it gives you an outline or a starting point of, okay, this is where I need to gun my research. Here's some ideas. I'm really stuck. That's just what I have about that. I don't think AI really ever came up in my course. Maybe the other pals here can add on.
Well, we actually had it was kind of like a little lesson about AI where we really just kind of hammered home how things about plagiarizing and what that meant at Park and that sort of thing. So we kind of talked about AI in that way. And the way we talked about it, it wasn't really a good thing. I know Waylon mentioned like ways that it could be useful, but I think more often than not, people are using it in ways that they shouldn't be using it. So that's kind of what we covered. It's like, this isn't the best way kind of thing.
It's definitely here to stay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say real quick, I was literally just having this conversation with one of the grad schools yesterday talking about being a GA and like having to grade AI things. So this never came up in my FYE class, but I anticipate this being an issue moving forward. And one of the things that we kind of came to the conclusion of is some of it is just confidence. These students want to turn in the very best work possible and they want to get that 100%, they want that A. And so they rely on AI because they think AI is going to produce that. And so a lot of it is me becoming a TA is like, well, I know I'm going to have to design assignments that aren't going to allow AI to do the entire work. And I'm going to have to encourage students that it is okay to fail or to not do super well on an assignment because we're here to grow. You wouldn't be here at college if you knew everything already, because you should be the one teaching, or you should already have progressed. And so that was one of the biggest things we came to the conclusion of yesterday. Is just helping students have that confidence that it's okay not to turn in perfect work, and that we design assignments that don't encourage perfect work, that encourage the growth for these students.
Great point.
I could see Park at some point coming up with like an FYE 101, and it's an AI course, and it's going to be designed to basically magistrate AI, but also, we don't want to put a thumbnail on it, because when they go into the workforce, the more skills they have in AI, more certification they're going to have, the more asset they're going to be to any organization. So I think we need to really do a deep dive and say, okay, what's our real policy at Park? And do we want each instructor having their own, spin-off version, sort of monkey bars version of it, when we should have a stationary policy that students can all, you go to one class and an instructor has a deviation to what it is from a different class, and next thing you know, one kid's getting in trouble and one student's not getting in trouble in the other class. We got to have consistency with it. So I think the main objective, and I think it's probably a global problem, is developing consistency with AI rollout.
Yeah, I just real quick, I know with short on time, I think that's a very great point. And as you said, AI is here to stay. And I think as Park gets their hands around it a little better, that's one thing I have noticed is some professors being like, well, this is my thing, or some professors being like, if I find it at all, you're failing this class, I'm dropping you, you're getting written up for academic dishonesty. And I would say just in all the courses, encouraging students, hey, I know when you use AI, I run stuff through Backava. Sorry, my dogs. Encouraging students to use it well, and like I said, in the proper ways to use AI and the improper ways, and how you can get the most out of it and truthfully still learn. So
Waylon, I'm going to go along with what you're just saying, because in the face-to-face classes or the blended classes I teach, I will tell them, I said, try to avoid getting all your content from AI, because if it's not current and I'm looking for more current information, or it could even be incorrect, and a lot of the AI systems can create their own stories, and that can get you into lawsuits, which there's stories about that out in the news right now. But to use it for the basics, like I tell them, I said, you can use it, like, for example, to draft an outline for something, maybe to look for maybe better wording. But a lot of times what I try to do is I try to tell them to use, like when you were talking about Grammarly, I'm not so sure that I keep forcing spell check and grammar check in Word, because it's a little better than it running through a system and somebody going, oh, that was AI. I'm not sure that that's showing up as AI yet. But thank you.
yeah,
I do know
great.
we are running short on time, so I want to make sure we get this one last question in, because it's a really good one. What is your biggest takeaway as a PAL?
A very valuable asset.
A big question. So I'm sure we all could spend a lot of time thinking and reflecting on that. But I think one of the biggest things for me, especially someone about to go to graduate school, is that being a partner in my education, so like having a peer who can help me through all of my 4 years, and that like we're on the same page, we're both learning and we're both growing together. But also as a PAL, one of the biggest things I tried to do was get my mentees in connection with faculty members that are still, again, partners in their education, not looking at like, you're just here to teach me things so that I can have my fancy piece of paper and I can leave and go on to do new things, but that we are actually like, we work together to make sure that like I grow as a student, and that like you guys are still growing as faculty members, and again as a peer, that I'm learning from my mentees all the time. There's definitely things that I didn't know that I learned from them, and I hope that they learned from me as when I was their mentor. And so my biggest thing is like being that partner in education and not just looking at it as an end goal of I want to graduate, I want to be out of here, of like, this is actually a journey that I get to go on and I get to learn lots of cool things along the way.
I mean, I'll give it a quick gun. I would just say the biggest thing that I mean personally I enjoy is the leadership, but also encouraging other students in their own personal growth. And not everyone grows the same. Not everyone has the same visions about what they want from college. I remember that was something that came up when I was a freshman. Some people just want to be here to go from point A to point B, get their degree and get out. Some people really want to get involved. And I would say just ensuring you meet the needs of every individual student like we talked about and encouraging their growth here and ensuring they can get their best experience out of Park.
I can also try to answer this question. I'm sitting here trying to think about like, what did I take away? I think the biggest thing is just the importance of connection and how connection makes or breaks your college experience. Like Waylon said, there are some people where it's like they just want to go from point A to point B. They don't really want that in between connection stuff. But I think that that is really beneficial and that's really helpful. And I think that this PAL FYE program is a perfect place to foster that connection and for students to learn how to connect with their peers because we're all in the same boat. Like, what does that look like to go to events? What does that look like to ask for help? And so I think that was just my biggest takeaway, getting to see how this program helps fit all of the different puzzle pieces together for students.
Yeah, I think you all had good points. I mean, I think one of the biggest things for me was learning about all of these other students and learning about their experiences. And I felt like I learned a lot about myself as well, because it was a new experience for me. This isn't something that I'd done before. And they were also going through this new experience. And I felt like we kind of moved through that together sometimes. And, you know, just like I was telling them, it's not as big of a deal as you think it is. And the things I went through are not a big of a deal as I think they are. So it was just nice to be able to make that connection and learn more about these people and learn more about myself in the process.
Well, it's easy to see why our students are so lucky to have all four of you in their corner, supporting them, encouraging their journey, and being part of it. So thank you so much just for sharing these incredibly insightful observations, perspectives, reflections with us. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you, Camille, for all of your efforts coordinating this very important initiative and programs at Park. And thank you for all of you who joined today. There were so many great questions in the chat and that were asked. So thank you for just engaging in this conversation with this group. We look forward to having our next student perspective panel and appreciate all of the time and expertise that you shared with us today. So thank you all so much. And I hope you have a great, productive rest of the semester to everyone. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Much.